Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome to our raw reaction review of Cocaine Bear.
Apex predator. High on cocaine. Out of his mind. Oh man, you fucked.
What the fuck is wrong with that bear? Shoot it! Bear, speed up!
Get higher, baby, and don't ever come down.
We covered this on the Sunday Scaries right when it first dropped. This had a lot of buzz around it. It was something that a lot of people were like, "What the fuck is this? Like, what is going on here?" Like, this is based off of a true story. Apparently, this is, it looks like it could be a comedy, but it also looked like it was pretty violent. I don't think people could really make heads or tails of it. The only thing that was the general consensus is, yes, let's go take a look at this fucking movie. And yeah, it's finally here. We got to check it out tonight, and how are we feeling about it?
Yeah, I will agree that, this was probably one that was marketed on blatant curiosity of how exactly is this going to go. But, looking at the trailer for this and, you're a big creature feature guy, but even for this one, I was like, I don't know what the quality of this film's going to be, but it looks like it's going to be a decent amount of fun. And, going into this, like I said in our short, didn't really have any expectations of really going into this one way or another. But if I did have an expectation, I think this would have exceeded it because this was a lot of fun. The characters in here were a lot of fun as well, way more developed than I figured that they were going to be. And the way that they've kind of built these relationships and kind of how it all intertwines eventually, was really well done. And, that's like one of the things that I was sitting in the theater and I was thinking about like a lot of current slasher stuff. And I'm like, sometimes we just don't have that connection with the audience. Or not with the audience, with the characters as the audience. And this one, I think they kind of they showed a perfect slasher dynamic without this being a slasher film.
Yeah, I thought the character work was great, honestly. Like, you get a couple different groups in this movie. And the story is kind of spread out amongst them as they kind of come together. Honestly, like, you were never bored. You were never like, oh, I don't want to see this story continue on. I just want to follow this one group, and it was never annoying. I always liked seeing where everybody's interactions were going, especially with how the bear factors into everything. And I appreciate how this movie kind of starts. It's not necessary. It's without saying too much, it's kind of like they really just get right into it, but they don't at the same time they still do spend a little bit of time doing that natural buildup, because I feel like with creature features, some of my favorite parts are just knowing as the audience something is out there and the character's not, and they do play with that a little bit, and I did enjoy that. And overall, I gotta say, I really like the work with the bear. I mean, it's all CGI, but it looks great. Like, honestly, I was pretty shocked because I expected, from the trailer it looked good, but I was just like, okay, there's definitely probably going to be some shots in here that are pretty but no, dude, it looked really solid throughout this whole movie.
Yeah, for me, I think the CGI was kind of hit or miss. Like for me, like Beast, I thought was really well done. This one was like, I could tell it's a CGI bear. And it's like one of those things where it doesn't bother me now, but I know you're giving me that look, but in 2 years it's going to be like,
I don't know, man. I think the bear itself has some personality, which I didn't expect. They really do have a lot of those facial reactions, so it's like it almost feels like the bear becomes a character in and of itself instead of just this roaming antagonist. So it's one of those things where it's like, I think like that's going to have a lot of staying power with people.
No, yeah, and that's where I was gonna. If you let me finish my thought, I was gonna say
sorry.
that like for me, I think this is one of those cases where where I go, with the CGI could really work in its benefit here because this film knows what it was, and it exceedingly achieved it. And it's like even like looking at this film, there's a lot of perfect gore, but I think even if this CGI bear kind of gets dated a little bit, I think it may even add to the charm of me watching this film. It's like
Mhm.
looking at some of those practical effects that don't really work anymore from the 80s because, budget reasons and things like that. But sometimes watching those films, it adds to the charm. And I think kind of Cocaine Bear has found its groove in that sense where I think this is one that I'm easily going to own when it comes out.
Oh,
This is
absolutely. Yeah.
this is one that I'm gladly gonna also have on digital because I'm gonna want the convenience of turning this one on. And this is
Mhm.
going to be something that I know I'm going to revisit years down the line regularly because it's just so much fun. Like,
Mhm.
we talked about Violent Night and how my expectations for that was just to be a lot of fun. And that one's like Christmas holiday horror, it works for me. But like this one, Cocaine Bear, we're going in cold. It's a creature feature sort of, but this one, if dare I say, was a lot even more fun than Violent Night for me. So like I don't know, this one on all accounts it had a lot of great gore. Obviously there's no secret that people are going to die in this film, and it's like I think we have a bunch of different groups, but I think every time someone does die, it feels like I wasn't ever shortchanged. You know what I mean? It feels like
Mhm.
we had a good time with them, and then when the bear finally gets them, it's like, yeah, get them, and then it's great gore. So it's like,
It is great gore. I mean, mostly CGI, but we're not talking about like how we discuss CGI with like the mean one or even Blood and Honey, which we saw last week, which I will be bringing back up as a point here in a second. But it is one of those things where it's like this CGI blood was, as you could tell, a bit of a higher budget. So it's a little bit more passable. I think, if anything, the CGI blood will probably date faster than the bear, but I still think like the bear is just so effective in the sense of like how it attacks people. There were a couple of times where I really winced and just kind of like when audibly not shrieked, but was like, oh, like when he would grab people and really get into it because they don't shy away from it. Like they really they play a very interesting game here of it really coming off as a comedy, but there are some really horrific sequences when the bear is attacking people, and it's almost played over the top. And I feel like that was on purpose with how much gore and violence and everything there is. But at the same time, it's just like it is a bear, and like if you have looked into like bear attacks and things, which like a couple months ago, I went down a rabbit hole of just like listening to these horrific stories of like people throughout history dealing with bear attacks, and like they are vicious animals and they will fuck you up, and they do not shy away from that in this movie.
no, yeah, and it's like, I do think they looked at it and were like, well, let's go balls to the wall in terms of the gore here. And I think, storytelling, this was a perfect storm where it's like, oh, let's not give cocaine to a house cat. It's like, let's do it with a fucking bear. You know what I mean? So it's like, you do that and you have an excuse to give out the most crazy gore that you can. And I think they do it so effectively here. It's like one of those things where, you open up that broad spectrum. It's like, I have so many choices here of what I can do, and I think the things that they narrowed it down to do in this film absolutely work. There is a sequence that I think maybe in the trailer, it's just you only see a little glimpse of it, and obviously we've seen the extended scene with the paramedics and an ambulance, and everything in that scene works. It's like horrific gore. There are moments that make you jump in your seat just because you're like, did they just do
Great
that?
tension building. Yeah.
And it's like that for me, that was probably a big stealer of the film. It's like that scene just from beginning to end was a lot of fun. But again, there's so many scenes in here that are a lot of fun. There's one where I'm not going to fully get into it, but a sequence with a character hanging from a tree, and just the tense kind of gore that you get. That's not. It's more so off screen, and it basically
Yeah.
falling into screen.
And there's
It's
definitely the show of restraint too when it needs to.
yes.
Whether that was just so they wouldn't get an X rating or what, but like you do see it though. You see glimpses of it, and you got to give the props to Elizabeth Banks here for really tackling this material and just feeling like she had such wonderful control over this. Like, again, we're talking about how great the characters were, how great the story was, how fun the film was, but still having that hard edge. It just really feels like a beautiful mix. And I gotta say, like, I'm giving this an exceedingly high rating. I definitely think this is one of the better films to go see so far this year. It dare I say, between this and Infinity Pool, this could be my favorite that I've seen in 2023 so far. And I have to kind of see what we're up against right now, but damn, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we talk about this being kind of for a certain audience. That was brought up a little bit. We talked about that last week with another bear film, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Um, you know, I don't want those two to cross paths, and I feel like we're going to agree on this. So I will put words in your mouth a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that when we say this is for a certain kind of audience, it's like, is this going to appeal for everybody? Cocaine Bear, probably not, but I think this will appeal for a lot of people. I think a lot of people will enjoy this. As to where Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, you got to know that you're walking into a really low budget shit fest. And you
Yes.
got to know that that's the kind of movie you're getting. You got to be ready to buckle up for that ride. We had fun with it, but I wouldn't say that it's like, one of the greatest of all time. Like, we're getting sequels, so it's like, yeah, but if I didn't know that already, I would have said, take it or leave it. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
But Cocaine Bear is just one of those things where it's like, this is pure fun. This is, definitely something that I would say, whether you're on the fence or not, take the plunge, go see it, because it's just so unique, so fun. The characters are great. The story is interesting. And, even though it is based on a true story, they claim so, there's a lot of elements from that story because I
Yeah.
did a lot of research into it when the film was announced. But at the same time, no, the bear did not go fucking crazy and massacre a bunch of people. It just died. But it was one of those things where it's like, it's still, I'm just impressed with how much I enjoyed this. I knew I was excited for it, but again, I went in expecting kind of some B-rate schlock, and I got a lot more. I got more bang for my buck, and that's the best feeling in the world coming out of this film.
Yeah, and I think the biggest hesitation going into this movie is probably the title being Cocaine Bear and the concept of it being a bear on cocaine, even though oddly enough that's its selling point for a lot of people. But I can see like a general audience maybe being a little hesitant to go into this one, but you you go into this one, you spend money for that ticket, you sit down in the theater and you let it take you on this ride, and you're not going to be disappointed. I think giving this film a chance, even if you're not sure about it, on the fence, I say go for it because like Dylan said, he was excited for it, but was even more excited walking out of the theater. And for me, I'd say this would exceed any expectation that I had because this is a lot of fun. And this is easily for me this year, probably the most fun I had at the theater. Honestly, it will be hard to top this one in terms of just pure fun.
Hmm.
Because they did it so well. A lot of the comedic characters they hit. Sometimes that. Sometimes it gets a little too lame. But I think everything that they did here was working. And I know we're kind of finishing up, but let's touch one little moment on our boy Ray Liotta. I
I was
mean,
gonna
come
say
on.
I wanted to highlight it. Yeah.
It's
Um,
just seeing him on screen one last time. I'm guessing. I don't think was this his last film. Do you
I
know?
think this is his last film. I can do a little bit of research while we're talking here, but like, if it's not his last, it's one of his close to the end here.
Yeah.
But I believe this may be his last big theatrical experience.
And it's like one of those things where it's not a secret that he's playing, sort of antagonist in this film, where you're kind of sometimes rooting against the bear, but you find yourself rooting for the bear a lot of the times. Ray Liotta's kind of on that fence alone, where he's on that side of pure antagonist, but he plays it so well. The guy's just got so much charisma. I was so excited to see him in this. I know when he popped up in the trailer, I was like, oh goddamn, Ray Liotta's in this film. You got to see it. And what a perfect role for him. It's like it's such a pity to watch this film and then have to remind yourself that he is no longer with us because of just the pure talent that he has. And the way that it's funny to think this dude was in Goodfellas in so many films, and now he's in Cocaine Bear, and he does everything so well. So, what another highlight here amongst a ton of highlights in Cocaine Bear. This is a film that I cannot recommend more. That this is just going to be so much fun in the theater. So yes, if you're deciding whether or not to go see this, go snort a line and do it. But we don't encourage drug use.
There you go. I did do some research. He does have a couple other movies that are deemed as completed and in post production on there, but yeah, this looks like this will probably be his last really big
Big
theatrical experience, and
substantial
you
role,
know,
maybe.
yeah, and it's one of those things too where it's just like it's a hell of a film, and he does kill his role absolutely. You bring up the fact that he's like, you know, he is kind of the antagonist of the film in a way, but early on you do sympathize for him, and even up until like really you don't even start to hate the guy until the very end.
And see, and
um and
that's the beauty of the
I don't want to
character
say
work.
too, I don't want to say too much more else because of spoilers, but yeah, you're right, the character work is great.
Yeah, they kind of put you on this ride. These aren't one note characters, which they could have easily been, and maybe a couple are. But I think all these characters have their moments, and I think that's the beauty of this writing, where it's like the main device here is a cocaine bear, so it's like you don't really have to do too much for the characters, but they did a lot of great stuff here.
Absolutely. So, yeah, high marks from us here with Cocaine Bear. Definitely go check this out this weekend. Make some time for it. I really think that this is going to be a great one to sink your teeth into. We had a lot of fun with it. Hell, you would not have to twist my arm to get me back in the theater to see this. It's not very long either. I think it's only like an hour 40. So,
Yeah,
it's not a hard commitment at all. And I think like the rewatch value on this, I think is going to be exceedingly high. Because again, we just got out of it. I would love to go upstairs after editing and everything and flip this thing back on before I fall asleep.
absolutely.
Like just to watch some of these scenes again. Because again, the characters are funny, they're relatable, and the scenarios are just fucking wild. So definitely do yourself a favor. Check out Cocaine Bear. Lots of great stuff from us. 2 big thumbs up. So alrighty, but I guess that about wraps us up here, guys. So if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. We are on our way to 1,000 subscribers. We also have a lot of great content up on the channel already. Last week's Sunday Scaries is still up for everybody to check out. A lot of good stories there. We've got reviews for things like The Outwater, Skinamarink, like we said, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and interviews for all 3 of those filmmakers on the channel as well. We got a lot of great stuff coming your way. Lots of fun things as we roll on into March. Big month. Lots of good stuff coming out. For movies in general, it's a packed month, but we got a couple of great horror entries on the way as well. So stay tuned with us, and we will be with you with all of that shortly. So, all right. Until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
The bear. It fucking did cocaine.